Savannah and I live full-time in this van and we travel around off-grid, but she was a house cat for 8 years before we did this. The transition between the two was a lot harder than I was expecting, especially the first 2 months. She screamed, I cried, and I genuinely wondered if what I was doing was cruel and if I'd have to rethink living in a van. But fast forward 18 months and it is like watching a mini lion in action. She walks the perimeter, she hunts, she finds little nooks in the grass or bushes to sleep in, and I didn't quite realise how understimulated she was in the houses before seeing her out in the wild. So I'm going to go through the stages that I took to take her from house cat to van cat. If anybody is thinking about doing this, I'm going to show you what's possible. I couldn't find a video like this when I was looking to do it, so hopefully this is going to offer somebody some guidance. So there were sort of like 8 main steps I took to get to this point, but a little disclaimer before we start. Obviously, every single cat is different. Please use your own judgment. You know, if you've got a really scared cat or a cat that is maybe not so bright and would just run into the road, you know, use your own discernment to decide whether this would be right for you, but this is my experience based on Savannah. Savannah is a Maine Coon cat. She was 8 years old when we moved into the van, and it had just been me and her for those 8 years previously in different houses. We had moved several times, but it was just me and her. There was no one else in the houses, so I do think we've got a bit of a special bond anyway. I actually think she's my spirit animal, but that's a story for another day. So I built this van with my dad. So step 1 was essentially just letting her come in and out of the van as we were building it. It took us a year to build this van. I built it outside of the house that she was living in at the time. So every time we were in the van, she would just like pop in and walk around. Every time we built something new, she would usually sniff it, you know, get used to the smells, and often sit on or in what we'd just built. So step 1 was essentially, as we went through the build, she was getting used to the layout, the smells, the sounds, things like that. So I just let her come and go as we please, and I think that did help to some degree. So if you've bought a van, I would probably just leave the doors open, hang out in it maybe, and let the cat come in and out at its own pace. If you're watching this and you're a cat owner, you know you can't force cats to do anything. They have to do things at their own time and at their own pace. So again, just let your cat come in. It might be a little bit scared at first. Just try not to do any sudden movements or any sudden noises. Just sit and let it do its thing. And that was step 1. Step 2, once I had pretty much almost finished the van, I took her out for a drive in it. Now, I had never heard this sound from my cat until I did this. She screamed bloody murder. I only went round the block maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and I just never heard her so distressed. It was awful, but I was trying to get her used to moving in the van. Now, side note, she'd only ever been in cars or in the carry case when we were going to the vets. So she did associate that with something that wasn't a pleasant experience. So another little tip I would say is to leave the carry case out in your house open, just for as many weeks as you can. Put maybe a little blanket in there, and then like if your cat can sleep in it, that's great. So you basically want to make the carry case a safe space for the cat, not a place you put it to take it to the vets. She absolutely hated driving around loose in the van. I didn't put her in her case, I just let her free roam, and that was mistake number 1. She didn't like that at all. Step 3 was I took her on a couple of short trips. So after that debacle, I realised that she wanted to be in her case. So she was fine in the van moving, driving when she was in a carry case. So she obviously just felt more secure, you know, having a safe space to be. I had left the carry case out, as I mentioned before, so she'd got used to it. So I used to just strap that into the front seat and then she would be next to me as I was driving. Step 3 was I took a couple of mini trips, so a single night or 2 nights, and we would go out and stay in the van close to home, maybe an hour's driving tops, and just see how she got on with it, and then go back to the house and give her a good week or whatever to settle back in the house. So step 4 was to move in. And like I said, she wanted to be in the carry case when we drove around, and that lasted for about 10 days. And then after day 10, she just suddenly decided, I don't want to be in the carry case anymore, and I let her roam free. And she didn't scream, she got set up on the bed or on the sofa, and she preferred it that way. So I think after about 10 days, she'd got used to what was going on with the driving, and she was like, I don't need the case anymore. So I kept it in the front just in case, but I quickly realised she wasn't going to go back in it anymore. She was comfortable driving around in the van, and I put the case in the garage, which she now sleeps in sometimes if she wants to. It took her about 5 or 6 days after we moved in to even leave the van. She wasn't confident enough, she didn't want to. I will state at this point as well, I had her on a lead. There is no way I was letting her just go out. So we had her on a harness and a lead. She didn't really enjoy that. I'd never put her on a harness or a lead before, so this was sort of a first experience for her. And as I said, she didn't leave the van for about 5 or 6 days. I would open the door, and most of the time she would just run away, or after a few days she would sort of stand at the door and look out, but she didn't step out of the van. So again, go at your cat's pace. They will know when they're confident enough to do what they want to do. But Savannah just simply refused to leave for about 6 days. When she did jump out, as I said, we had her on a lead. She was on a lead for about 2 months, and this is why it was the most challenging, 2 months, because she just doesn't enjoy being on a lead. She is a free cat and she wants to roam free. But after day 6, she went out, and she would stay quite close to the van or try go under the van often, which is difficult when she's on a lead. But step by step her confidence grew, and she would day by day go a little bit further away from the van and then come back, a little bit longer outside on the lead and then come back. We had things to contend with, like other cars, other people, dogs, new situations, new smells. There were ducks, geese, things like that, other wildlife out that she'd never encountered before. So it was a lot for her to take in. And looking back now, she did really well. I think she adapted better than I did. It took me a long time to get used to living in this van as well. But the first 2 months with her on a lead were exceptionally challenging, because I was very conscious of giving her enough outside time. But if she wanted to be outside, that meant I had to be outside. So I couldn't be doing anything in the van myself. I couldn't cook, I couldn't get ready, and I was working at the time. So there was a lot of things to juggle, and that's why it was really challenging. But then comes step 5, and this one she forced upon me because I was not ready to let her go off the lead. She got off it one day. I think she was chasing something. So she hunts a lot, does my cat, and I think she genuinely just saw something and she bolted, and the lead just boom, she slid out of it, she was gone. Now, I did make a video about this at the time. I cried. I cried and cried and cried for about an hour. I was so worried. I called my mum and I was like, look, can somebody check in on me later? Like, this has happened. I was just so worried that she just wasn't going to come back. But anyway, my mum, the very wise woman that she is, said to me, she's like, look, Becca, she's probably just showing you that she is capable of doing this. So trust her. And, I'm sure she'll come back to you. And lo and behold, an hour later, she sheepishly just wanders up to the van all casual, lays down outside the door, and I'm just sitting here like I've been crying for an hour, and she's just there, and I'm like, oh, Savannah, you're back. So at that point, I realised that it was safe enough to let her off the lead. Other reasons why having her on the lead was a challenge was because I actually don't think it's as safe. If we were quite away from the van and she saw a dog or something, a situation that she wasn't comfortable with, and she was trying to run back to the van, the lead was 15 metres, I think, and she would run a lot quicker than I could, and it would catch, like the lead would reach its end limit, and then she couldn't go any further. So she couldn't get back to safety because she was on the lead. So in hindsight, I actually think it was safer for her to be off the lead, because then, cats are intelligent. They're wild animals. They know what's danger and what's not more than humans do. And she's able to find safe spaces, under the van, jump in the van. I always left the door open for her to come back in, or to find a bush that a dog couldn't get in, for example. That happened once. And yeah, so I actually think in hindsight, it's more dangerous to keep them on a lead when you're out and about. But I didn't know that at the time, and it was all a learning curve, and I was too scared to let her off. So alas, she's off the lead, and I realised that she knows the van is home now and she can come back to the van. So this is about 2 months into living in it full time. This is when the GPS tracker came into our lives. Oh my goodness. The peace of mind that this has brought me is sensational. So get a tracker for her or your cat, put it on a collar, and then when she went out I could get my phone and I could be like, where is she? And I could check exactly where she was. That gave me peace of mind. She then started enjoying herself more, started hunting, started walking the perimeters, exploring, things like that, and that's when things started to settle down and we both started to enjoy ourselves. I was absolutely terrified to start with. I would be basically staring at the app constantly, just wondering where she was, and when she'd disappear for about an hour at a time, my heart would still go and I was still very worried, but she kept coming back. She kept proving to me that I can trust her and she knows the van is home. And every time we would move to a new location, she would just boop, jump straight out, have a little look, check back in, go again, check back in, and then she'd go off for an hour and then she'd come back every time. So we love the tracker. Highly recommend getting a tracker. The moment I knew we'd fully cracked it was when I went to visit the parents, a place where she used to live while we were building the van, and she came back to the van instead of going in the house, or she would sit in between the front door and the van if I was in the house and just wait for me to come out and then run back to the van straight away. So the first couple of months, whenever I went back to visit my parents, she would just run back in the house, and it took her a while to get used to the fact that no, van is home now. But that's when I knew I'd cracked it. When we went there and she still wanted to come back in the van, I was like, fabulous, she knows this is home now. So step 6 was the tracker, step 7 was new locations. So we then started going a bit further afield, and we would move, you know, multiple times in a week. Before, I would tend to just stay in one place for a few days just to get her used to it, whereas now we were sort of branching out and doing more travel stuff, if you like. And every new place we went to, door open, quick look, left, right, and boom, straight out. Most of the time she would go under the van and just get her bearings, and then she would go off. But more often than not now, she is just excited to see where we're going, and she just straight away out, sniffs everywhere, walks the perimeter, sees what's up, and then just has a great time. She'll usually find a little spot that she likes and she'll lay down and just stay there for a while. Step 8, the final step, was shutting her out. So in summer, it's no problem to leave the door open. I always have the door open. I have a fly net, and I basically roll up a corner of the fly net so it's a little cat flap, so she can constantly jump in and out of the van whenever she wants. Now, you can't do that in winter. It's too cold. So the next step was actually shutting the door. Now, in a house, I'd do this with her all the time. I'd open the door, she'd go out, I'd shut the door, she'd stand at the door and meow to come back in. So I was hoping that that would happen again, and lo and behold, it did. Now, it's quite difficult to hear her through a metal van as opposed to a house, and I obviously checked, you know, I'd keep opening it, see if she was there, but I would sit here and basically just wait for her to come back, and I heard a single meow, and I would open the door, she'd jump in and I'd close it again. She didn't really like being closed in to start with. She would very quickly turn around and ask to go back out again, so I'd open the door, let her back out, and then she'd want to come back in because it's freezing cold outside. So again, that took a little back and forth, but now she gets it. It's a nice day today, it's sunny, but she's come back in and she's gone to sleep in the cab. So sometimes she'll go to sleep in the bush, and other times she comes back into the van to sleep. It's entirely up to her. So step 8 was again scary, because I'd have to basically just like stop her being able to come back into safety. But she figured it out, and 18 months in and we've got everything down. It's essentially just like this is a house, but it just moves. So now we go to new places all the time. She jumps out, she explores, no problems. She comes back in when she sees something that's not safe, or she'll run to a location that is. We had one experience where she got chased by a dog. Bless the woman, she was so apologetic, but she had these really quick, I don't think they're gunner dogs or something, really quick dogs. And Savannah was just out, she came walking back, her dogs weren't on a lead, and one of them clocked Savannah and she just absolutely went for her. I was just sitting in the van and I saw this cat go phew, and then this dog go phew, and I was like, ah! So I ran out. She found a way into some dense bushes that she could get into and the dog couldn't. The only thing that happened there was the collar snapped off her neck because a branch got caught on it. So, but she went and hid for maybe 40 minutes, an hour, and then she came trotting back, but without the collar on, and I was like, oh no. But luckily that UBQE collar has a sound that you can play. So I went on the app and I was like, lost watch, it's called a watch, and I played the sound and I went to go grab it, and luckily there was like this little hole in the bush where she'd gone through and the tracker was just in there, so I could reach through and grab it. So that is essentially how I trained my cat to be in a van. Number one, let her sniff around the new van at their own pace. Number two, take them out for a very short drive, see whether they want to be in a carry case or free roaming in the van. Number three, do short trips, a night, 2 nights, close to home. Number four, move in full-time or part-time if you're doing part-time. And again, let them go out at their own pace. It may be several days before they decide to leave the van. That's fine, just let them do their thing. I think the main thing to take away with this is you have to go at their pace. Don't force them to do anything. Number five was getting off the lead. Oh my God, the biggest stressful moment ever, but turned out to be the best thing. 6 was the GPS tracker. Game changer. 7, new locations, moving more frequently. And 8, shutting her out at winter time. So those were the 8 steps I took, and now we are having the most fun. So I hope you found this useful or entertaining if you don't have a cat. It was quite the ordeal. If you want to support the channel, you can do so over at Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search for My Van World. Huge shout out to my Patreons, the absolute legends. And if not, I will catch you in the next one. Peace out and stay wild.